The sound of my front door creaking open pulled me from the legal brief I was reviewing in my home office. I paused, listening. Footsteps echoed through my entryway, followed by a woman's voice muttering something about clear violations of Section 12.3. I hadn't scheduled any appointments today, and my housekeeper wasn't due until Thursday. Setting down my pen, it moved silently to the top of the stairs below. Mistood a woman in her mid-50s, burgundy blazer stretched tight across her shoulders, clipboard clutched like a weapon. She was already halfway through my kitchen, opening cabinets and photographing the contents with her phone. Improper storage of cleaning supplies, she announced to no one, scribbling furiously. That's a $25 fine right there. Excuse me, I said calmly from my perch. What exactly are you doing in my home? The woman froze, her head snapping up. Her eyes widened as they traveled for my face to the federal court, seal on the polo shirt I happened to be wearing from last week's charity golf tournament. The clipboard trembled slightly in her manicured grip. It moved to Riverside Meadows just 3 months ago, seeking refuge from the chaos of downtown and the endless stream of high profile cases that had consumed my life for the past decade. After 20 years on the federal bench, I craved anonymity, quiet streets, and neighbors who didn't recognize me from newspaper headlines. The modest colonial at the end of Magnolia Drive seemed perfect, tucked away behind mature oak trees with just enough yard to satisfy the HOA requirements. I'd barely glanced during closing. My new neighbors seemed pleasant enough during my occasional walks, though. Several had warned me about the HOA president. Watch out for Patricia Harrington, my next door neighbor. Stan had cautioned while trimming his hedges to a militaristic precision. We call her Karen around here, but never to her face as she's been running the Riverside Meadows HOA lie, key her personal kingdom for 5 years. Now I'd nodded politely, figuring I could handle whatever suburban politics came my way. After all, I'd presided over racketeering cases and constitutional challenges. So difficult could a homeowners association be? The first notice arrived 2 weeks after I moved in, a crisp white envelope tucked into my door, informing me that my mailbox was 3 in total, according to subsection 8.2 of the community guidelines. I measured it myself and found it perfectly within specifications when I called the HOA office. To clarify, Patricia's syrupy voice assured me it was probably just a clerical error, but suggested I might want to replace it anyway, just to be safe. The second notice came a week later, claiming my recycling bins were visible from the street for more than 12 hours, violating the visual harmony standards. This was particularly puzzling since I kept them in my garage except for collection day. The third notice cited me for excessive deneliance in my backyard, which was interesting considering I just had professional landscaping done each time I responded. Thapolate but firm letter explaining why the violations were unfounded. Patricia's tactics escalated. She began taking photos of my property from the sidewalk at odd hours. I'd catch glimpses of her burgundy blazer darting behind trees. When I looked out my windows, he started sending mass emails to the neighborhood, warning about declining property values due to new residents who don't respect or community standards. Then things got stranger. It began noticing subtle signs that someone had been in my house. While I was at the courthouse, a stack of mail moved sly, gotly to the left cabinet doors. I distinctly remembered closing left ajar the garage door opener, which I always kept in my car mysteriously on my kitchen counter. At first, I chalked it up to absent-mindedness, the stress of the move catching up with me, but when I found my back door unlocked one evening, I knew something was wrong. Installing security cameras took less than a day. It chose a professional grade system that backed up to the cloud, complete with motion sensors and night vision. Then I waited. It didn't take long. The footage from the following Tuesday was illuminating at 2:17 in the afternoon. Patricia Harrington approached my front door, glanced around nervously, then produced a key from her pocket, shell other self, in as casually as if she owned the place. The key, I discovered through a few discreet inquiries, came from the emergency lockbox I was required to maintain for first responders. As HOA president, Patricia had access to all of them for community safety. She spent 43 minutes inside my home, photographing everything from the inside of my refrigerator to the books on my shelves, all while muttering about violations and fines that could have confronted her immediately. But years on the bench had taught me patience. I wanted her to hang herself with her own ropes. So I kept quiet, continued recording, and waited for the perfect moment. That moment arrived on a Thursday afternoon when I deliberately worked from home, my car hidden in the garage. Patricia entered at 2:35, right on schedule. I listened for my office as she made her way through the first floor, her voice carrying clearly up the stairs. Improper shelf spacing in the pantry, she announced. Non-approve. Ed brand of water softener salt. Oh, hand a look at this store brand pasta. Definitely brings down the neighborhood. That's when I made my entrance. Patricia Harrington. Isay descending the stairs slowly. You're trespassing in my home. She spun around, clipboard clutched to her chest to have every right to conduct HOA inspections. It's in the bylaws, the bylaw for external property inspections with 24 hours notice. I replied, reaching the bottom step, they done, not. However, permit breaking and entering into private residences that's covered under State Criminal Code Section 423.1. Her face flushed red, clashing with her blazer. I didn't break anything. I have a key from an emergency lockbox that you've misappropriated for personal use. That's theft of services at minimum, possibly fraud. I pulled out my phone, showing her the security footage. I have 3 separate instances of you entering my home without permission. Each one is a class. Aim is demeanor, Patricia. That's up to a year in jail per count. The clipboards lipped from her fingers, papers scattering across my hardwood floor. You can't prove anything. I'm the Hay president. Have authority. Your authority ends at property lines. Azed calmly, and speaking of authority, it should properly introduce myself. Judge Russell Mitchell Federal District Court for the Eastern District to believe you've been photographing my federal court ID badge it through my home office window. It's hanging right there on my bookshelf. The color drained from her faces so quickly. I thought she might faint. Their mouth opened and closed like a fish, gasping for air. You're Leing, you can't be. Would you like to see me credentials, or perhaps we should wait the police to verify them? I held up my phone again. He was planning to call 911. But if you'd prefer to turn yourself in voluntarily, I'm happy to drive you to the station myself. This is entrapment, she shrieked, backing toward the door. You set me up, you moved here just to destroy your communities, to moved here for peace and quiet. I corrected you're the one who chose to commit multiple felonies, and before you ask, no, it's no entrapment. When you break into someone's home of your own volition, that's just criminal behavior. Patricia tried to push past, met toward the door, but is stepped aside and gestured politely, by all means leave. But understand that I'll be filing charges regardless the evidences are Eddie uploaded to a secure server, and I've documented every false violation notice you've sent. She stumbled out onto me porch, then turned back with whatever defiance she could muster. The HOA board will hear about this. You'll be fined. You'll be forced out of this neighborhood. I look forward to that meeting. I said, in fact, I'll be bringing my attorneys. He specializes in civil rights violations and malicious prosecution. I believe you'll find her quite throughout the next few days, unfolded with predictable precision. I filed a police report that afternoon, providing the detectives with comprehensive evidence, including footage, dates, and documentation of Patricia's pattern of harassment. The criminal charges were straightforward: 3 counts of breaking and entering, misuse of emergency services resources, and criminal trespass. The HOA board meeting the following week was standing room only. Word had spread through Riverside Meadows like wildfire, and it seemed every homeowner who'd ever received a dubious fine or threatening letter from Patricia wanted to witness her downfall. It presented my case with the same methodical approach I used in court, laying out evidence piece by piece as security footage. From April 15th, I said connecting my laptop to the meeting room projector, Sherrington entering my home without permission at 7 p. The room gasped PDAS. They watched her casual breaking in April 22nd, 31 p. April 29th, 35 p. Each time spending between 30 and 50 minutes inside my residence. Board member Garrett Thompson, a local accountant who looked perpetually nervous, cleared his throat. Patricia, is this true? Did you enter Judge Mitchell's home? Patricia, flanked by the budget adder Nasheed, managed to retain, tried to maintain her imperious stance. I was conducting authorized HOA inspections. It's my duty as president to ensure standards are maintained inside people's homes. Asked another board member, Margaret Lou. Patricia, we've discussed this before. Our authority is limited to external property views. This is criminal. The vote to remove Patricia from the board was unanimous, even from her usual allies. But that was just the beginning. As news of her removal spread, other neighbors began coming forward with their own stories. Stan revealed she'd entered his home while he was on vacation and rearranged his furniture to improve Fune. The Andersons discovered she'd been in their basement and photographed their storage system. The young couple at the corner had security footage of her trying their doors and windows. The civil lawsuit, if filed, sought damages for invasion of intentional infliction of emotional distress and trespass. My attorney, as promised, was thorough. She uncovered that Patricia had been systematically entering homes throughout the neighborhood for years. Containing detailed files on residents that went far beyond HOA business. The discovery process revealed notebooks filled with personal observations about neighbors' shopping habits, visitors, and private conversations. She'd overheard while trespassing. The criminal trial was swift, with overwhelming evidence and multiple victims testifying. The jury deliberated for less than 2 hours. Patricia Harrington was convicted on all charges 3 counts of breaking and entering, each carrying up to 12 months in jail, plus fine as the judge, a colleague, or accused myself from any involvement, showed little sympathy for someone who had so brazenly abused a position.